So we'll shift gears now and talk about mainline Protestant families that we interviewed. We interviewed 20 mainline Protestant Christian families, a total of 47 individuals. And perhaps more than any other of the faith communities who we interviewed, they repeatedly discussed their belief that God is love. That was stressed and that was quoted from 1 John 4:8 is where that idea comes from. And many of those that we interviewed drew explicit attention to the fact that the two commandments that Jesus taught, to love God and to love your neighbor, were core values for them, and that they felt loving God first and then loving neighbor, including the nearest neighbors, those of their family, was a core religious belief and value for them. And so a number of them kind of summarized this as love God, love people. And we were often inspired by the devout efforts of our mainline Christian families who we interviewed to live out those beliefs in very pragmatic ways in their own families, and then also by serving others in their communities. And there was this sort of focus on loving their neighbors as themselves, and also loving those who aren't necessarily their neighbors in terms of people that live in the same neighborhood, but their neighbors broadly defined, those that were in need in their community. Many of those that we interviewed believed in the transforming power of God's love through the Holy Spirit that enabled them to love each other more deeply. One example of this is the story of a mother who I interviewed who talked about how much she appreciated that her husband and her son, a teenage son, went to a soup kitchen each Saturday together to serve food to the homeless in their community. And she spoke with great emotion about what effect that had on their father-son relationship, and of course also that it was serving those in need in their community. And that kind of social justice approach, or progressive approach to religion, emphasizes caring for the people in greatest need, was very impressive, and we had great respect and admiration for that. Several talked also about the fact that they loved God and they felt that God loved them and that God forgave them for their sins, that helped them to love and forgive each other in their family, and that made a real difference for them. And they explained that their sense of relationship with God changed how they approached their own family relationships and how they interacted with their spouse and their children. So I guess I want to just finish up with a couple of quick quotes from a couple of participants on this theme that used phrases such as, quote, relating to each other through God brings a lot of unity, end quote. Or as another participant put it, quote, God's relationship with us is reflected in our marriage, end quote. And that was impressive to us, and the sense of holy envy that taking one's beliefs, one's relationship with God, and not just enjoying that relationship with God, but thinking, what does my relationship with God mean for me as a spouse and as a parent? How can I reflect my love of God and God's love of me in my love of my spouse and my children? How can I reflect God's forgiveness of me in how I interact with my spouse and children? Just a brief story that I'll share. I was raised in a mainline Protestant family. I was raised in the Episcopal faith, and so my parents and my brother went with me to those services. Both my brother and I served as altar boys in the Episcopal Church. For me, the greatest example of this type of love that we've been talking about was manifest by Father Todd Ewald and Mrs. Ewald, who adopted my father and his siblings after their parents were killed and then died of cancer a few years later. So my father and his siblings became orphans in their teen years, and Father Ewald came and literally adopted them and brought them into their community, and that really saved their lives in many ways. And I just have great respect for that kind of devotion.